What does Earth School mean? What lessons did you come to learn at Earth School? How do you graduate from Earth School? And welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hello.
Today, we are bringing to you a topic about Earth School. I brought this up to a friend of mine, and he was like, well, schools are different all over the world. And I was like, Not exactly
Eh,
talking about school like the education systems that we as humans have put in place on Earth, but rather using Earth as a place for the soul to learn lessons that it would like to learn.
Yeah. The guides, Mount Glass has brought up Earth School and using that in like terminology for just communicating with us, right? And it's more of like the feeling I get every time they have this subject of words, I guess, is more of along the lines of it's just a concept. It's a concept in order for us to compute in the English language or in just human language. And really what they normally are trying to interpret is that our soul is just consistently growing, consistently learning, and we make conscious decisions to come to Earth, and this is supposed to be one of the hardest places to develop and learn from, but it's also one of the fastest ways to grow
Hmm.
as a soul.
Hmm. So, Earth School, we come not as humans to have like fun, it can be for some people like a fun experience. That's their purpose. So part of this is maybe an assistance to us in figuring out one of those big life questions of what is our soul's purpose
Oof,
of
yeah,
coming here, of having this experience, of living this life.
yeah.
So Earth School is not a new coin term. It's actually pretty prevalent among the spiritual community.
Right?
So, what the spiritual community is meaning by Earth School is that, all right, we're gonna go into some concepts here. So, theoretically, this is the most dense of experiences for a soul, meaning Earth is a solid experience. Things feel firm to us. We feel like we are solid.
Ma
I'm not an object, but
material, right.
yes. Like we can't. My finger doesn't go through my hand when I push at it. It go through my fingers, but I digress. But our soul, as we were talking through the self love practices for the different bodies, we started off at the physical level with the most dense
Right.
and progressed upwards towards the spiritual, which is the least dense. So when we're experiencing Earth, there are greater highs and lows in the vibrational waves. So we experience the highest highs and the lowest lows here in this dense place. I'm trying to figure out how to like the best way to describe
The
this. So
the planet.
bear with me. Yes, as I'm navigating this. So we experience all these highs and lows, but it's for a purpose. Without experiencing the lowest lows, we cannot appreciate or comprehend the magnificence of the highest highs, the love, the joy, the pureness of that. So when we come to earth, when our soul chooses to come to earth, it may be to have a wide range of what we consider negative experiences. And that's to further our soul's growth and understanding of our connection to source.
Right. I think it's interesting because we're not necessarily and there are some before I even complete that sentence, I'm thinking of like there are some instances where I've heard NDE stories, right? And in those NDE stories, they come back with the remembrance of their experience in that realm, in the realm of the non-physical. And to them, in some situations, it felt physical, but they all came back. In every story I've ever heard, they've all understood a common thing. And that was that we are here to learn.
Mm.
We are here to experience. We are here to grow. And it doesn't end with the experience here. And so when I hear things like that, I'm always, because then they're now telling their story years after those experiences. And some of the questions that they've been asked in these conversations is like, okay, well, what are you learning now then? Now that you know that, has that impacted your experience here? And one of those main questions that I always ponder with is like, I'm willing to bet that that has, like, shifted your perspective quite a bit in almost every scenario, but it doesn't mean that you're not gonna still have more lessons to learn.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have come back. There's still a part of your decision beyond the human physical form that decided that this was something you needed to continue to do and that
Right.
you still had lessons to learn.
And so it's not necessarily about going through the negative experience and being like, okay, well, I did the thing. Now I'm done. It's about how to overcome that and maintain and strengthen a connection to love and source.
Yeah. And even that, like, connection to yourself, right? Like, that connection to yourself is the connection to source, and we've covered this a few times. This is our belief, this is our thought processes. Use your discernment, please. But that is one of the things that I always loved about the concept is that it allows me the ability to take that zoom out moment
Mhm.
and to say, "Hey, like, cool, we've got this concept of this is a school." And it's easier to kind of even navigate the thought processes by calling it a school because we've pretty much all of us have been to school.
Mhm.
Most of us have been in some kind of teaching form and or learning form. And so just being able to navigate thoughts around asking yourself, okay, what lessons am I learning? And I'm skipping ahead. That is my bad. so so
And the difference though between schools developed on earth by humans is in our schools here, we're learning how to navigate society based on the structure that humans have created. And we are needing to utilize that to navigate our like this human life. However, this is beyond this physical experience. This is beyond into the soul growth. So our current school systems don't address spirituality for the most part. Um,
they should.
which I think that there's a level of it that they should with there's a concern of infringing on religious choice.
That's true.
So it's structures, they're teaching structures that we use to create our society and to maintain our society and hopefully continue in its growth. Now, obviously those may change and again the only constant is truly change. So it's learning how to grow with those structures or those structures growing themselves with us. But again, this school of earth is the emotional, the intuitive, the spiritual, the connected to all things and all beings, and even learning about our abilities and our empowerment as individuals and as the collective, and how anything that we do to ourselves or do to other people is impacting everybody.
Yeah. And that lesson in love
Mm.
and the different aspects of love. I think that's one of my favorite parts of it is being able to grow in the sense of what does love feel like on a physical realm?
What is true love?
What is true love? Right.
Unconditional.
How do you embody love in the physical as you have it so easily in the non-physical?
Mhm. So back to the waves, right? Like that's the peaks are the experience of duality and contrast. And Earth is considered one of the more dense, you keep saying realm, dimensions,
Yeah.
realities. So that's why we perceive everything as so solid. And it is only through the garnering of these experiences of duality and contrast that we are actually given the opportunities for expansion and growth and even seeing ourselves from different perspectives at a soul level.
Could you just imagine if we could take the abilities that, and I'm gonna say this because I don't know the gravity of the amount of listeners that we have and what they've experienced, but I've heard that there are people that can just close their eyes and pop into a different realm if that's what they wanna do, and astral travel or whatever and have those experiences. But could you just imagine for just a second if we had the ability to just have these, like, pop outs, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm just gonna sit here in this chair for a second, and I'm gonna leave the physical for a minute. I'm gonna go back and tap into the realm in which I existed in before this, and bring all that, like, light and that love and, like, bring it all back in, and then I'm gonna pop back into my physical body, which I've heard from those that tell those NDE stories that I was referring to earlier, how intense that was, like,
Mm.
how squeezed in they felt.
Yeah, and
Like
that's so interesting. Like, there's this constriction, like you're in
mhm.
a straitjacket almost.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I guess, what it feels like. I won't know right now until
It
later.
better be way later. I
But
could
I remember hearing that their soul feels so constricted
mhm.
and restricted and limited by this physical dense body.
I always attest that to times where I can't get comfortable. Like, if I'm, I got I got some lady bits, and so sometimes I'm really uncomfortable. Like, I feel like I'm super restricted, and I can't get comfortable, and I'm constantly, like, wiggling around or moving around or trying to adjust positions and just to get just to feel comfortable, or they'll have to remove the hoodie and only wear the t-shirt or whatever to just feel more free. And so sometimes I wonder if that's what that feels like, right? Like being such a grand thing, this bigger than life, and then being restricted into a physical dense body, and you don't come from that originally. You don't come from such density.
So what I hear is squeezing into Spanx.
Yeah, like that. And then wearing it for like 14 hours.
Or for your life.
Oh my god. So our first question here was, what does Earth School mean?
So, just to summarize, Earth School is the concept of choosing to experience a life on Earth so that you can have different experiences, contrasting experiences, so that you can appreciate, understand, be in more gratitude for being in that higher vibration of love and joy and being closer to source.
And I guess that kind of helps us jump right into the very next question, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
But what lessons did you come to learn at Earth School?
So I wrote some down, but I'll let
Oh,
you go
oh
first.
my gosh. Well, let's see here. I usually tap into understanding this. And before I say the lessons, I want to say that there's not really like a positive way here. When I say positive, not like positive negative, but like there's not a direct way for me to ever know that until I'm no longer here. So no matter how
We
many
don't get our report cards till
right.
afterwards.
There's no we get synchronicities, we get consistencies in repeated events where it's not the exact same event, but there's a common theme to it. We get a lot of those. And it wasn't until I decided to learn about awareness and perspectives and shifting my perspectives and looking at things in different aspects and learning abilities to, I'm not saying that you have to figure this out by tapping into your guides and talking to them or anything like that, but I'm just saying that it helped quite a bit for me to start to pick this up. But by doing that, I then started becoming aware of the lessons, right? I started realizing commonalities, is that a word?
Mhm.
and the synchronicities. So, patience, that's been a huge one for me.
Your favorite P word.
It's not my favorite P word, like, at all, and even just me using my voice and my thoughts and saying that out loud, I know that I'm going to get more and more presented with scenarios that require me to learn patience.
So you heard the resistance in your voice when you said that too?
Exactly.
And the more you resist, the
The
more
more
it
it
will
persists.
persist.
Yeah, dang it. So patience is one. Judgment, I believe, is another one. Learning how to not place so much judgment on myself, or place judgment on others. Learning to be okay with who I am, and I think that kind of rolls into the judgment category, and self worth. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. um, Learning all the different, like, looking back at, like, the times where I didn't feel accepted as a kid in a certain clique or group of friends, or not feeling like I was ever good enough to get a job or receive the accolades that I needed to receive in order to, progress in my career or in anything that I ever accomplished. And just learning to be able to do things that I enjoy to do and feel that, "Look what you accomplished. You got that done." And it's a pat on the back to myself, and it's not required for somebody else to give me the kudos for,
Mhm.
right? So that
You don't
whole
need that outside
right, right,
acceptance or validation.
right, yeah. And that's a hard one to learn because I'm still learning it. There's so many times that, it's like I know what I'm saying to even the audience listening right now, like, I hear what I'm saying to you. I hear what I say to myself when I say it, but there's so many times still where I'll go through moments and I'm like, "Well, why didn't they like that?" And then, gosh, add social media to all of that,
Mhm.
where you spend hours on a freaking TikTok and then you post it and only one person liked it, and you're just like, "Why didn't they like what I did?"
It's the algorithm.
Freaking
It's not
algorithm.
you.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're literally actively seeking others' approval versus being okay with the fact that, "Oh my gosh, I just made this incredible piece of content that I'm super happy with and I love, and I put it out there, and I feel good that I put it out there." And just let it be, right?
And just being impressed with all that you've learned to be able to do that,
Right.
and that you're willing to be vulnerable and share,
Right.
and that you found joy in doing whatever it was to create the post.
Correct.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, so going with the flow is another one. Not putting any control on every moment of my life. Ooh. Yikes. What about you? All right, enough about me. What about you?
So, first and foremost, I just wanted to acknowledge that everybody's lessons are different. So, whatever you came here to learn may be completely different than what I came to learn. And when we are applying to Earth School, that is a soul's choice. So, yes, you chose to be here right now with us also, but in this time frame, this space frame, you chose this. So did I. So, some of the possible lessons that we came to experience may be like learning how to set healthy boundaries,
Mm,
learning how to forgive yourself and others, holding empathy and compassion, understanding, releasing judgment and selfishness, learning how to listen not only to others, but also to your heart, to your soul, learning how to say no, being humble and in humility. It may be learning how to be of service to others, being courageous, standing up for ourselves, or learning about fear based versus love based thinking and action.
that's a big one. I think collectively we're learning that one right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This divisiveness that everyone. has been experiencing for so long.
And do you see that social media is a tool to give us more opportunities for these lessons?
Ooh, hoo, hoo.
I know, I hate social media. Meh.
She said it.
I know. It was just a
What?
little light bulb. One tool that I think is helpful in learning about your soul's purpose is actually using astrology.
Mm.
So, in your natal chart, if you look to find your south node and the north node, so these are not actual planets, there are points in space based on the positioning of the moon. Um, the nodes of the moon can give you guidance on what you're bringing in at a soul level from past lives. So, what strengths are you coming in with? And then where you're headed, the lessons that you need to learn, learning how to balance the two.
Oh boy. Astrology is one of those things where it's like, it is one of the most beautiful tools. It's I've never not seen it be accurate, which is kind of scary. Um Scary, but if I want to stay in my fear-based thinking process, but it's beautiful and scary.
It's really cool. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
Google map is all it is to
It's a
the soul. I'm gonna make a little plug to a podcast that I listen to regularly for this, Old Soul, New Soul. So Thomas Miller is one of the co-hosts. We interviewed him, I believe, last May. So you can check that out. We'll link it below from Fun Astrology Podcast and Subconscious Mind Mastery. But he does a third one called Old Soul, New Soul
yeah.
with Robert Glasscock, who has been an astrologer for 60 plus years.
Wow.
And they did a series last summer about the nodes of the moon in the different houses and signs. So you can go check that out for a little extra guidance. So pull up your natal chart and find your north node and south node and go check out that
Yeah.
series for some information.
They're very, very brilliant minds coming
Oh yeah.
together. Yeah. Amazing.
And they definitely make it more digestible and understandable
Yes, they
and
do.
applicable.
So thank you for that. Because some people like myself need that. Um, I think that honestly, when I've seen some of the lessons present themselves, being aware of the lesson when the lesson's happening is not normally something that we all.
Well, that's not easy, right? Because
Right.
we are in the moment and we can't both observe and be in the moment at the same time. Like, you can be in the moment and then pull out for a second to observe, but then still need to be in the moment and then observe. And so it's kind of like this back and forth of a
Yeah.
camera view. But it's really hard. So sometimes you just have to be in the moment and then go back and reflect.
It's literally like a pulley system, like the belt
Or like
on 2
I was
wheels,
thinking like on, off, on switch.
On and there are for those that have experienced lessons, which so many of us have, and I just wanna address this right quick, but so many of us have had really tough lessons. Some are still going through extremely tough lessons, and this can range from all different types of walks of life. So, if we are trying to sound lighthearted, and that's just the way we create our content, but just know that we understand. The 2 of us have gone through our own personal life lessons that have been extremely tough in nature at times, but it's not a comparable.
No, no, and we're not meant to compare. We are meant to commune and support,
Right. I
not compare and try and one up each other on our traumas.
Nobody wants to do that. I hope not, at least.
If you
Oh.
do, take a step back and look at that.
Yeah, ask why.
So I think one final thought on this question is that I said we choose to come here. We
Mhm.
also choose our experiences that we're going to have. And I know that that's a really tough pill to swallow because that also makes us have to take some responsibility.
Yeah.
So it may be something like experiencing a death of a loved one early on.
Mhm.
and learning how to maintain that connection at a soul level.
Yeah.
It may be that you use that experience to later in life share it and support other people. And so, whatever that uh, heart hurting experience is, it's how can we make something out of that? And how can we see the light that is always shining?
Yeah. It is, how do I wanna say this?
I know that was a real tough one. I don't know if I said that well enough.
No, it is a tough one. I mean, I when I was shown what I was shown with my Mount Glass team, in channeling sessions or, even during my past life
Regression.
regression, I saw things that I never thought of. I never thought to look at it like that, right? So, when I got diagnosed with cancer, first of all, that was a shock. It was a huge shock, and going through the experience that followed that, there were so many times where I was like, "Why is this happening to me?" Right? Like I was just given this thing and like, what could I have done better? Could I have eaten better? Could I have made better choices in life? Like I went through the rabbit holes of rabbit holes and then it was like fight or flight, right? Like how do I survive this? How do I get through this? But afterwards, after going through it, and I'm grateful that I'm still here to tell you guys this, what happened was it woke me up. It woke me up. It woke me up to decide that Carrie and I were going to create a podcast to share our journey, to share our experiences, to open my gifts, my abilities, to do all the things and then share it with an audience. I have to cut this part out.
Nope.
She said no. And it was a hard, very hard lesson to learn. But getting through that, getting on the other side of it, I saw and then meeting with my guides and just understanding like I saw from different individuals that watched the video that I posted about how to get through a hysterectomy, which I was very hard for me to share. It was very personal. Um, and when I understood how that helped so many people and the questions that I received after that, and they were like, "Oh, I'm so happy that you shared that video because that helped me through my situation." And I realized that something so traumatic for me, something so scary for me was really helping others. Sometimes the lessons that you are here to learn is to help others. That's a tough one because you yourself in this physical form, you're going through the heartbreak and the experience of it all. But what you don't realize is that so many others are as well. And just your little light, your little decision to say, hey, this is happening to me too, even if it's in a single sentence, allowed somebody else to not feel alone in their journey. And that brought just this tiniest spark of light that just grows and grows and grows and grows. And then you find yourself helping all of humanity. And it's wild when you see that from that perspective. So, for those of you going through extremely tough lessons, like myself, I have gone through, or like Carrie has gone through, just know sometimes you might be doing it so somebody around you, somebody you interact with, is being helped. You might not ever understand that fully. You might not see that fully, but I guarantee you that's what's happening.
You may not see it while you're living this life, but
But
you
you will.
will.
You will. Go listen to, oh my god, what is his name? I think it's Alex Ferrari, and if you ever listen to our podcast, Alex, we all live in Austin, let's hang out. But I believe it's, Next Level Soul podcast, and he actually interviews people that have NDEs, and their journeys and their stories are incredible.
And
Absolutely
I know
incredible.
we've mentioned NDE several times. If you don't know what that is, that's near death
Oh,
experience.
I forgot to say that. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
I've cried on a podcast today. Awesome.
It's but it's stepping over that hurdle of fear of rejection
Yeah.
and welcoming the love and connection
Yeah.
beyond that,
Yeah. I'm every day I'm grateful for that moment. I never thought I'd say that when I was in that moment.
for sure.
Literally never thought I'd say that, but every day I'm grateful for it. Because every time I get into a sticky situation or a confusing situation or a complex one or one that makes me angry or sad or I lose a friend or a loved one that passes, I remember that because I went through that. And it just makes things a little bit easier.
It is a beautiful example of transmutation of energy
Yes.
because
Well
it
said.
probably would have been much easier to not take that step of posting that video and sit in that anger and sit in that resentment and shame and
Yeah.
fear and aloneness and further create that mold of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I mean, look what happened when you allowed yourself to overcome that fear.
Yeah. Well, and I even think about the impact to those around me,
Mm,
right?
exactly.
Like you yourself, like being my best friend and witnessing all that. Wow. She was best nurse ever, by the way. I had the best goodie bags for recovery. um, but even what you had to go through just to be somebody that loves someone else going through something so hard
Right. It's
or
not just the person with
right.
the illness, it's the people that support the person too. Like it's not just one person that has to go through the experience by themselves.
Yeah.
It may feel like it,
Yeah.
but there's other people that are experiencing um, things connected to your experience. So it's not exactly the same,
Right.
but there is a sharedness.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just definitely wanted to make sure that we gave space when it comes to Earth School for those that have had a much tougher uh, time. And believe it or not, a majority of people, even though you're watching them on social have the best life ever, we're all going through it. Those are just things that people want to share at the time they want to share it, right?
And it's doctored.
And it's doctored.
It's edited.
We got editing involved. So,
And I mean, like, it could be an estrangement of a relationship. Like,
right.
that was I looking back now, I understand that that was one of my lessons that I had to or I chose to learn in this life, and I think I chose it with my dad
Yeah.
and his soul. At a young age, we were estranged, and it wasn't until 20 years later
Yeah.
where we actually, after multiple attempts, chose to develop the relationship that we have now. And I wouldn't have it any other way because I don't think it would be the way it is now.
Yeah. You guys have a cool relationship. It's pretty rad. Um, there's also, like, hearing other people's stories, well, and we'll jump off this topic here in a second, but I've I know of a story where somebody had went through, breast cancer, and before going through that experience, didn't have the closest of relationships with their sibling. But following that experience, their relationship is extremely close now. And it's just wild because that might have actually been on that individual's life path,
Mhm.
right? Just as well as like what the guides had said to you. Like you were meant to have that separation so you could find your way back and grow even stronger.
And that's literally Earth School summed up.
Right there. Literally right there. This last question, okay, before I even post it, we went through the list of questions to do for this topic. We decided to do this one. Number 1, to be a little bit more lighthearted about it, and then number 2, well, we'll just
We were
post
just
it.
riffing off of it.
Mhm,
So we're gonna riff again.
mhm.
So how do you graduate from Earth School?
Well,
The most obvious answer is the incorrect one. So the most obvious answer is once your body is done, have you graduated?
uh, yeah,
I mean,
no.
that was a question as an answer, but
A question as an answer, right.
so no, no, just because your body's time ends does not mean that you are done with your lessons.
Yeah, I mean, we're perpetual. We are energy that never dies. Uh, the physical forms may change, but the energy is always there. Science. And so, there have been
I think that's the first law of thermodynamics, if anybody wants.
right, right. And with that comes the lessons. Your lessons may shift, they may be different. Uh, and I wanna say again, just because I feel required to say this, everyone's belief system is going to be different. We do not judge you for that. We accept you as you are. Use your own discernment, take what you resonate with, leave what you don't. And what I've seen, what I understand, what I believe, and where my energy goes towards this topic is that we don't go anywhere non-physically. We will stay in existence no matter what. Physically changing, yes. So, if that's the case, if you're ever growing, if you're ever expanding,
Ever evolving.
ever evolving, then there will always be a lesson. It might be a beautiful one. Maybe it's not so dense, but there you go.
I forgot one lesson that some people may come here to learn is just how to enjoy life,
Oh my gosh.
just to have fun.
I saw somebody this actually reminds me, yesterday I was driving to run an errand. I was actually taking Webster to get groomed, and when I was driving, I got to this stoplight, and as I was sitting there waiting for the light to turn green, there was this young lady, and she was dressed like she was jogging, but she was walking very briskly, and her hair was not pulled back in a ponytail, it was long, and it was down, and the wind was blowing, and she had the biggest smile on her face. Like, this was the most joyful walk she's ever been on. And I felt like I was witnessing someone feeling so free and just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful like, I chuckled in my car and smiled because I saw that. Hopefully I didn't creep her out, but, like, it was a cool thing to witness, and I was like, "Man, what is going on in your life that you look like that right now?"
I mean,
You
isn't it cool that you can just see somebody walking down the road smiling and be impacted by them? So, don't forget to smile. Or just I mean, like, not even that, like, um, walk that back. Stop doubting that you're impacting people.
Yeah, because you definitely are. You definitely are. Oh, lovely.
So,
So back to that,
yeah, this funny question. Graduation. So, like we said, if the body may die, the body may pass, but the soul lives on forever. So, if the soul doesn't feel like it learned the lessons that it needed to, it may take a little break, because time is just a human construct. And so it doesn't matter to the soul. So, it may take a little break and then decide to come back again for another experience. Something I did forget to mention: Earth school is not linear.
Thank you.
It's not like our school systems on Earth where you go kindergarten first, second, third, fourth, fifth. No,
Yeah.
this is we're picking and choosing the subjects that we're learning about.
Well, the wildest concept that I still cannot wrap my human mind around, and I don't think I'll ever be able to wrap my human mind around it fully until I'm not human anymore, was being shown that concept of the lessons that we were learning not being linear
Mm,
and how they're all happening simultaneously. past, present, future, what we perceive and what we determined and called past, present, and future, I that it's all happening simultaneously and that you can tap in to the lessons that are being learned in all of those experiences whenever they happened and bring those in. And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, wait, what? How?" And it's just a matter of choosing to connect with it is how they explained it to me. Just literally like, "Oh, okay. I was a cowboy back in the 1800s. I choose to remember what?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is
So
what
we're
I'm
still working on this
so we're still
this
working on this one, but the fact that that's what they said and that's what they were showing me these, like, flash images of, and I was just like, "What?" That one blows my mind. Anyway, rabbit hole. I like to do that.
So graduation, I think it may be based on whether your soul has garnered the experience and lessons it came to learn when it chose Earth School.
I think maybe you have, like, and I don't even think we look at it as an accomplishment when we're not here experiencing polarity or determination to prove our self-worth.
Well, self-worth, like, it doesn't matter outside of here.
Right.
Like, because we're all connected to source, we're all a part of that I am.
Right.
Like, there's just no question. When you don't have the intense highs and lows, right? When you're in that higher vibratory state, it's more like beep, 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 beep,
Little molehills.
versus
Molehills versus mountains.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As far as what is that called? The frequency, I
Mhm.
guess. Um, so the self-doubt and like self-worth questions, those are in the lower vibratory state. So they're in the valleys. So outside of this human physical experience, is that even something?
My understanding is that no, because we don't have judgment.
And so it's not about competition because who are you competing against other than yourself?
Right.
Literally, like every other person on this planet is a part of you. And you're competing against yourself when you're competing against them. When you're judging other people, you're judging yourself. When
Yeah.
you're harming someone else, you're harming yourself and vice versa.
Yeah. I've had arguments with my higher self where I've yelled at her and I'm like, "What the were you thinking?" And then I have to sit with the question, was that part of my free will? Did that happen because of my free will, or did that happen because that was something that was supposed to?
I mean, it sounds like there's just resistance and not wanting to be accountable or responsible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're projecting the anger
See?
on higher self.
That's
So that brings me to the importance of using a mirror in your lesson. So, you can use a physical mirror if you want to, but I'm saying as far as taking time to reflect
Yeah.
on your experiences, what could you learn? What if you zoomed out and shifted your perspective? Is there another angle that you're missing, another aspect that you're missing of the event or the situation where you could shift into a higher vibration just by seeing things from a different perspective?
Isn't that wild? Like, just even to, like, have the ability to look at it in that nature. Aren't you intrigued as our audience and our listeners? Like, aren't you intrigued to just like, huh, what different angles can I see all of these different scenarios that are playing out in my life at? What's repeating, right? So going back just to the question of like, what lessons did you learn or to come here to learn? Ask yourself that question. What's repeating in my life? What do repeating events, and when I say repeating, I'm not talking about identical situations over and over again. They can be if your guys are really trying to get your attention. That's usually what happens. But
Like
um
driving behind a slow car with a license plate
I
222.
cannot believe that happened again this week. And this happened again this week and check out what episode was that? Was
Oh,
that Spiritual Body?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
spiritual body. 96.
Yeah, and I was telling Gary about a story about me being irritated in the car, and I'm on the phone with her, and I'm, like, basically bitching over and over again, and I look down and I see 222 on a license plate when I had been getting repeating 2s all day. And so, just this week again, I wasn't on the phone with anybody, but I was not in a great place mentally, and I was in a rush, and I was feeling, like, a lot of anxiety, and I looked down at the car in front of me, and there it is again, 222 at the end of the license plate number. And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." And I immediately laughed, and it immediately also pulled me right out of the state that I was in. So, thanks team for that.
It was a quick shift.
It was a quick shift because I knew.
What this says to me is when we're trying to understand why we came to Earth School,
Mhm.
starting with observation. So, observation of the external environment, but also observation of the internal environment and how you're responding to the triggers and what you're interacting with in your external environment.
Yeah.
And start with that observation and becoming aware of how you are emotionally and physically responding to these
Yeah.
observations. Or if you're not observing, reflecting back. How did I respond? And so there's your reflection right there is in the observation and
Yeah.
and the creating awareness.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
It's just so smart. All right. Well,
It's time for the collective card reading, y'all.
whoop.
All right. So today we are going to be using the Psychic Tarot Oracle card deck by John Holland. And I went ahead and drew 3 cards. I did take a peek at them. Shyra has not.
No. Oh, and this is by far the strongest oracle deck that I own. Just so we're clear. Usually, not usually, every time it has very deep rooted message in these cards. So the book is extremely helpful, which is why I've got so many tabs on it because of the connection here. So, what is the first card?
All right. So
I'm
the first
nervous.
card, I haven't looked in the book. First card is Passion Ignited.
So on this card, it is the number 1 card, and it's purple in outline.
So it's a spiritual
So
card.
it's a spiritual card. There's a young lady, and she's got her head tilted back and her eyes closed. She's got a subtle smile on her face. She is holding a type of flame. It looks like it's within a circle. There's like a gold circle surrounding her. Underneath that, there is like a
So
green
it's like
triangle.
her heart chakra.
Yeah, it's like her heart chakra is lit up. It almost looks like there's a being inside the flame, by the way.
It reminds me of a stag.
Oh. And so her hands are very gently placed, like she's holding her hands in front of her stomach with her fingers slightly crossed over one another, her hand like overlapping one another. So it's a very gentle looking card. Anyway, passion ignited. She looks like she is igniting the flame within. It's a really good interpretation of that.
Like, when you go and just like sit outside and you're sitting in the grass and you're just like looking up at this, or not even looking, like your face is up towards the sky and you just feel the warmth of the sun and you're just
Yeah.
like soaking that in. That's what she looks like to me.
Yeah. Like she's really enjoying the moment
Yeah.
and feeling into it. And when I think about even the words passion ignited, I get a sense of freedom within. And so being able to really like play and have fun and connect and feel at peace with oneself and with somebody around you or others around you.
I like how she's got these little like water lines coming out from behind her. It kind of looks like a little reminiscent of some angel wings off the back of her.
Mm,
So that's like a water symbol. We've got the flame, and I like how the flame has created this circle.
that's like the ring of light.
Yeah, and I read a quote earlier today that said, "If you fall in love somebody, write their name in a circle because a heart breaks, but a circle is forever, is never ending."
Ooh, wow. Okay.
Something along those lines. It may not be verbatim. So circles also represent like the soul,
Mm,
consciousness.
yeah. Golden light represents strength and unity and peace. Gold is my favorite in meditation. So,
Okay, so what the little guidebook says, and I think this is kind of very supportive of our conversation today. So, it is time to let your soul soar. Let your soul glow. Um, so new beginnings, ideas,
we better not get copyright for that.
oh God. New beginnings, ideas, revelations, and exciting adventures await you in your personal or business life. Creative endeavors, enthusiasm, positive energy, and a renewed spiritual strength are at an all time high. So, in reference to our conversation today, reminds us that even though some of the events that we experience in life from our perspective, while having the human experience is not quite positive, it is an adventure.
Yeah.
And when you're able to zoom out of the immediate event, you can experience that life is an adventure.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't always feel great. Like, if you're on a trail and you're really excited about, like, seeing all the nature around you, and then you trip and you fall and you hurt your knee, but then after you've allowed your body to feel that pain, and then you give yourself compassion and you dust yourself off, maybe wash it off a little bit and have it dry, and then you continue on your way and just continue to appreciate and see all the beauty around you, and when you start to see again and connect with again all the beauty around you, the pain may not feel it quite as great.
Yeah. You might even forget it's there.
Distraction is a very good tool against pain from a nurse's perspective.
From a nurse's perspective.
All right. Oh, I have the cards. So, second card, stand your ground.
Oh, okay. The card is number 7. It is also in the spirit card section. It is a man, I think.
Reminds me of Hercules.
Yeah, it's just shadow. Like, you just see the outline. So it's a shadow figure that's an outline. And legs are spread apart in stance, one hand on the waist, and it's holding a staff up into the sky. And it looks almost as if they're just like, "You shall not pass." Some more copyright for you. It's on like some kind of grassy hill, and it looks like there's like a is that a moon?
No, I was gonna say that is like the sun or Mars.
Yeah, like coming close. And it's almost like this figure is gonna stand its ground and hold it off, right? Like, "You're not gonna go any further than this point here," kinda thing.
This card to me has, and I said the planet already, has a lot of Martian energy. So a lot of action energy, like aggression.
Mm,
Like aggression doesn't have to be a negative thing, right? It can be a protective thing where you're learning how to create these boundaries and learning how to say no or making claim
right,
to this space.
right.
So there's a lot of strength in this card, so reminding you if some of your lessons are about boundaries or are
Mm,
about, learning to say no, standing in your self-worth, in your self-empowerment.
yeah. That makes sense. I mean, standing your ground when learning lessons, is also important. How many of us have gone to well, not me, but everyone I've known that's gone to college and has said, "Nope, I can't do dinner tonight because I need to study." You stood your ground in order to continue learning. You can do this, you can apply that to a lot of other aspects in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be like college.
Mhm.
So, using that same stance when you are determined to get something done in your life, stand your ground in that. Set those boundaries.
And also standing your ground in, like I said, self-worth. So even not just in your interactions with other people, but in your interactions with yourself.
Truth.
And your self-talk. I didn't even read from the book yet. There may be fierce competition and potential rivals surrounding you in your personal or business life, but know that you have the strength and inner courage to stand your ground no matter how hard or formidable things may appear. So this is going back to those life lessons too.
Yeah.
Don't surrender or give up the control. Be brave and stay true to your core life values and belief systems, which are your best allies and will help you move forward. Remain clear and focused. You may have to stand alone and defend your convictions to the end. Maintain your health.
That's been a forefront one lately. Maintaining your health, eating clean food, cleaning your physical, spiritual, and energy bodies, and keeping that as clean as possible. Obviously, I'm not saying that, I mean, clearly I haven't practiced that much lately.
Well, it's a constant ebb and flow, and it's not something that you just decide one day and you flipped a switch.
No,
There's so much temptation
it takes determination too,
in standing your
and standing
ground.
your ground.
All right. Third and final. I thought this was funny because so we got 1 and 7, and then we got 17.
Oh, okay. So this is the number 17 card outlined in black, and it says hope. And it is a person standing. You can't see the person fully. All you see is their hands are out, almost like when somebody's like, "Hey, I want to, I'd like a piece of candy," and you hold your hand out for
No
candy.
soup for you.
No soup for you.
All the copyrights.
We're rolling through them, and they're holding light, and they're holding a light being, by the way.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
I didn't even notice that. They're like, okay, let me see if I can get this card a little bit closer to where it shows.
yeah. Can y'all
See
see that
the
little light being?
like inside the
And there's a
light.
lot of light beings in there. Do you see all the little other beings surrounding?
Sorry, I gotta look at it really close. Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's like infinitesimal. It's like a lotus, like an infinite lotus, but with light beings.
Yeah.
Didn't you talk about activating the light body?
Yeah, I did talk about activating the light body. That was something that your guide actually brought up as
Snap into a Slim Jim.
we're on a roll. Um, and
Four and counting.
right? We're on counting. Let's see if we get our thing taken off. So
New goals.
new goals. um So, in hope, there is peace. In hope, there is love. In hope, there is gratitude. In hope, there is expansiveness. In hope, there is joyful moments. In hope, there can be sad moments to bring about joy moments. In hope, there is grace and community. It's one of the most beautiful words that I think outside of the word love that I think that humans have ever come up with. Just because there's so much engulfed in that. There's so much light in that word, just saying the word out loud, just seeing the word on piece of paper, understanding what it means and the definition that we've given it. There's just a lot to it.
I was just thinking about how words are limited. Like, have you ever loved someone or something so much it did not feel like I love you was enough?
Right. That's how hope feels.
Yeah. So, hope. The hope card will help show you that the impossible can indeed become the possible. The force that works through your soul, determining what's possible and the difference between success over failure. And above all, who we are is the power of your belief. This serves as a reminder to use your natural ability of intuition. Yes, you all have a natural intuitive ability. The language of the soul as you reach for your goals and desires. The future can be yours when you have hope and trust in everything you do, and soon others will be attracted and drawn to your inner light. Learn to share your experiences and lessons. For
Ah,
those around you
no.
will also realize that by having faith and pushing forward where one may have felt no hope at all is the key to success.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I think that this is a really like beautiful way to wrap this up to remember the importance of all
Yeah.
that we get from community and being together and supporting and loving each other and just being there for one another.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. If we are all here to learn lessons, then we're all in that together and you're not alone in that as well. Beautiful day, beautiful episode.
So you learn this lesson, I'll learn this other lesson, and then we've done it, right? Both of us?
And then we share it here on this platform, which, by the way, if you are enjoying our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's right there. And follow us on any of our social platforms at Love Always Self. We have a website. And there are Mount Class messages that are written out there. Carrie's written some beautiful blogs that you can also see lovealwaysself.com.
And you can also find a link to these cards through our Amazon shop on
Yes.
lovealwaysself.com.
So, with that, thank you all so, so much for being a part of not only our journey, but allowing us to be a part of yours. And we love you all.
Thank you again for sharing in this life with us.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.